Before beginning this section, parents should have a copy of their taxes in front of them. The first question pertains to the parent's tax filing completion status. Because the FAFSA opens in October and utilizes prior year taxes, most families will have completed taxes that they can use. If you have completed the asked 4 years tax documents, select Already Completed. After selecting your tax filing status, you will be prompted to use the IRS data retrieval tool. If the tax status Already Completed was chosen, another screen will appear with further questions. You may be eligible to connect directly to the IRS and transfer tax information to the FAFSA form. Some people will not be able to use this method. If you did file an amended return that has not processed, or a foreign tax return, filed as married filing separately, or as married filing jointly but only need to list one parent's information due to a marital separation, you will not be able to utilize the IRS data retrieval. Once you select the View option to link to the IRS link, another box will appear. From here, enter the parent's FSA ID. If you don't have one yet, you will need to create one first. Then click the link to the IRS box. You will receive notification that you are leaving FAFSA on the web. To continue, click OK. On the next screen, type your address information as written on your tax return. If your tax return is available to link, you will be given access at this point to do so. Parents must choose the type of income tax return completed. Once selected, the following fields will state exactly which lines on the tax form the parent can locate such items like the adjusted gross. If you are able to use the IRS data retrieval tool, much of this information will be pre-populated for you. If you are unable to use it, you will have to manually enter your information. If there are two parents on the FAFSA form, it does not matter which one is listed as parent 1 and which one as parent 2. Once chosen, just remain consistent throughout the rest of the form. Parents can find their individual earnings in Box 1 of their W-2s, as well as documentation such as the Schedule C or a K-1 if self-employed. If a parent has multiple sources of income, the earnings need to be added together and a total income amount for each parent should be listed. Whether or not you were able to use the IRS data retrieval tool, you will have to enter each parent's income as information from the W-2 does not carry over to the FAFSA form. The final question on this screen asks whether or not one of the parents is a dislocated worker. For more information, click on the drop-down box to change the Help and Hints box on the right-hand side of the screen. There, they list all of the reasons a parent would qualify for this designation. The most common reason for this designation is a parent being laid off or having received a pink slip. A person who is not working by their own choice or due to a medical reason must select no to this prompt. The FAFSA is a smart form, meaning that based on responses provided, additional questions may appear. Some additional questions that may be asked include if anyone in the family is eligible for Medicaid, WIC, free or reduced lunch, and food stamps. Sometimes parents are given the choice to provide additional financial information or skip the remaining questions. If you do, and it is deemed that you did not need to, it will not be factored into the overall federal aid calculation. However, if you opt not to provide it, and it is later determined that other answers given were inaccurate and you should have disclosed more financial information, you will be requested to do so at that time. The first two questions on the next page of the FAFSA are found directly on your taxes. As seen here, the line numbers for the information you need are provided for you based on the income tax form listed on the previous screen. Read through the items in the additional financial information box. If any pertain to the parent or just to see further information, checkmark the box. If the prompt is not applicable, you do not need to place a checkmark. If you were required to pay child support, that amount should be included. As a note, the question asking about taxable earnings from work study should only have a response if the parent earned work study monies. If the student had work study earnings, it will be listed under the student section of the FAFSA form. Continue reading through the untaxed income section and checkmark any that pertain to the parent finances. You can also read further information about the prompt by checkmarking the box. The first question wants to know how much, if any, parents contributed to a tax-deferred pension plan. If parents did contribute, this information is found on the W-2 and not on the tax return. Click on the box to view a list of the codes and other information to look for on the W-2. Another question we want to highlight is the child support received. You do have to include the child support you received for all children during the year in question, even if it will be ending. If you were supposed to receive child support but only received partial payment or did not receive payment, only include the amount you actually received. If child support is scheduled to end or has ended since the year the information is requested about, you can inform the individual colleges of the change, as they may take that into consideration. Then select either yes or no to whether the parent has more assets than the dollar amount listed. Do not include assets in designated retirement accounts, such as 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, Roth IRAs, and annuities, as well as any equity in a primary property. Do include assets in parental checking and savings accounts, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, CDs, 529 plans for all children, equity in any additional property, trust funds, etc. If the answer to this question is no, the parent financial information section is complete. If the answer is yes, more questions will appear. List the parental assets based on the different categories. Balance of cash, savings, and checking belongs in the first field, and the balance of all additional assets, except for designated retirement accounts and equity in a primary property, in the second field. Only include the value of a business or farm that employs more than 100 people. If the parent owns a business of less than 100 people, the asset value is $0 for it. Next, students must enter their tax information. The first question asks if the student has completed his or her tax return. Just as in the parent section, the choices are already completed, will file, and not going to file. If the student did not need to file taxes for the year in question, select not going to file. If the student does need to file but has not done so yet, choose will file, and use either information from the prior year's tax return, last pay stubs, or their W-2s if already received. Select whether or not the student filed the tax return, and if so, which tax form he or she used. Just as in the parent section, if the student is unable to use the IRS data retrieval tool, click on the individual fields to find which line numbers on the tax forms or W-2 to find the information, based on which type of form filed. This section asks almost all of the same questions found in the Parents' Tax Information section of the FAFSA. The first two questions on the next page of the FAFSA are found directly on your taxes. As seen here, the line numbers for the information you need are provided for you, based on the income tax form listed on the previous screen. Read through the items in the additional financial information box. If any pertain to the student, or just to see further information, check mark the box. If the prompt is not applicable, you do not need to place a check mark. If the student had work-study earnings, it will be listed under the additional financial information section. While the work-study earned was already listed in the adjusted gross and the student's overall earnings, it is listed here as well because this figure will be subtracted from the earnings received by the student. So while it feels like the students are providing the information twice, it's done for a specific purpose that helps them. Continue reading through the untaxed income section and checkmark any that pertain to the student finances. Many students do not have any information to list in this section. Then students need to provide a figure for each type of asset they have. Balance of cash, savings, and checking belongs in the first field, and the balance of all additional assets, such as bonds, CDs, UTMA, and UGMA accounts, in the second field. Finally, they ask about a business or farm held in the student's name. If the student does not own a business or owns one of less than 100 people, the asset value is 0.